So I've spent about 20 hours trying out Traveler's Rest, the early access tavern management RPG inspired by Stardew Valley. In this video, we're going to be exploring everything from early, mid, and late game so you can decide whether this game is worth it in its current early access form or if you should wait for release. From starting out with a single table serving tasteless gruel, to having a full-fledged inn with staff, bed accommodation, and a restaurant-like variety of food and drinks, I welcome you to the journey of running my tavern, The Worm Slumber. Let's get started. Like all good RPGs, Traveler's Rest starts off with you creating your character. It's a pretty simple character creation system, but for games of its kind, especially since it's still in early access, it features enough customization to give your tavern keeper a unique and personal look. This is also where you can give your tavern a name, like the Winking Skeever or Drunken Huntsman.
Hello there.
Upon getting started, you're introduced to the tavern management minigame, which basically includes setting up your furniture so your customers have a place to sit and eat, opening up the tavern to allow them to come in, and handling their orders. You'll be serving them with food and drinks that at this point is given to you since it's still the tutorial, but later on I'll be spending a lot more time cooking food and brewing ale, expanding the menu for my tavern. But for now, we're serving grog and gruel to a couple of people trying out the new place outside of town. Since you're running a tavern, your responsibilities also include keeping the tavern clean, so you'll be cleaning tables as guests come and go, and sweeping the floor every chance you get to make sure your place remains up to the kingdom's hygiene standards. Aside from that, you have to regulate the temperature in the dining area, lighting up the fireplace depending on how hot or cold it gets. In this early access build, you pretty much only have to keep the fire up at night, but later on we'll be getting seasons, so I assume we would need a lot more firewood come winter. So, those are the basics of tavern management, which is your main way of accumulating income in this game. As you serve your customers, they pay for the food and drink they order, but depending on how smoothly your tavern is running, each customer will also give you a certain amount of reputation points. Leveling up your reputation allows you to slowly unlock new features in the game, which makes the tavern simulation a lot more interesting. Now, pretty early in the game you'll gain access to woodworking, smelting, and forging. Since your tavern is pretty small at this point, you'll want to go outside and chop wood, gather ores, and a bunch of other resources which will then be used to craft furniture for your tavern. For example, one of the early goals I set for myself was to fill the tavern with more tables and benches so I can serve more customers and earn more money. In order to do that, I had to chop wood, turn those wood into planks through the sawmill, and depending on the furniture, maybe turn some of those planks into wood poles. Then I'd have to craft nails by smelting iron ore into iron ingot and then turning those ingots into nails. You'll be introduced to more resources later on, but for now, this is enough for us to craft a new table and benches. Eventually, as you gain more reputation, you'll unlock the kitchen and farming, which goes hand in hand. The kitchen also includes the stuff for brewing, so you'll be able to expand not just the variety of food, but you'll be able to make different kinds of drinks from ales, lagers, and mead. Eventually, there's wine as well and an aging system through the cellar. For the next 4 hours, you'll be spending a lot of your time getting familiar with this gameplay loop, increasing your gold and reputation in the process, all while unlocking new recipes and ingredients. So, this is the part in the game where this early access game really makes it known that it is still in development. The tavern management is fun and all, but eventually you'd want to explore the different areas in the map, so let's go ahead and do that. North of our tavern, there's a mine with a couple of NPCs hanging out in a small camp. They give a bunch of throwaway lines, but not much else. Here you'll also find blocked pathways including a bridge, the entrance to the kingdom which is blocked by a guard, and the way into the mines which is blocked by a miner frozen in ice. As far as I know, there's no way to access any of these areas at the moment as they're still incomplete, so there's not a lot of reason to go here except if you need some extra coal or ore. Next, we head south, where things are a little bit more interesting. Here you'll find a farm with Buzz and his family. Buzz also allows you to construct a chicken coop in a barn for a hefty cost at this point in the game, while his wife Holly sells you one of the most important ingredients for cooking: meat. There's also Bob and Nugget who sells you natural resources whenever you need it, and there's a couple of fruit trees around the farm. There's also this hidden area where Crowley will eventually hang out, but for now I'll leave you to find out how to meet him for some mystery. Aside from that, there's really not much to do outside of your tavern, which worried me because it was getting kind of repetitive. You wake up, do your daily cooking, brewing, collect some resources, and then run the tavern, rinse and repeat. Understandably, this is an early access title, but at this point my general thoughts was that this was a game that I wouldn't recommend at its current state, at least not until more features were added, or maybe it would be better to just wait for the full release. Thankfully, upon reaching mid-game, things take a bit more of an interesting turn. Once you get the hang out of running your tavern and you've built your routine, you'll probably start expanding your tech trees. These tech trees basically allow you to unlock food and drink recipes that are a lot more complex, which requires more ingredients, requiring more time outside of the tavern gathering, farming, and basically just leaving you with not enough time to actually open. Even upgrading the character's stats by fulfilling orders and getting XP are not enough because the more you expand your tavern, the more customers arrive and the faster your stock depletes. Thankfully, mid-game is when Traveler's Rest starts introducing you to more convenient options for running your tavern. First, there's the Enchanted Broom, which sweeps the floors for you automatically. You can unlock this at Reputation level 5. Next is the Staff. At Reputation level 6, you'll unlock the option to hire a bartender who can serve food, and a floor worker who can focus on cleaning tables. These staff pretty much allow your tavern to run on auto mode, as they'll keep the tavern operational and clean while you do other things like cooking, brewing, or gathering and farming ingredients. You would still need to be pretty close or moving fast though, because there are times when a rowdy customer would cause ruckus in the tavern, needing you to personally talk to them or smack them with your broom so other patrons in the tavern won't have a terrible time. Now that I'm getting enough help, I was able to increase my menu variety, leading to more reputation gain, and since I had more time, I found myself focusing on increasing comfort in the tavern. Comfort is a stat that increases by adding more decorations and lighting to your tavern, and in return, your customers are happier, allowing you to gain much more reputation per visitor. So I was decorating my tavern, finally maxing out the floor space, and eventually I unlocked the construction feature. This feature allows you to not only increase the size of your tavern, allowing you to handle more customers, but it also gives you the option to build a second floor. On the second floor, you can add another crafting room, but more importantly, you'll be able to create a rentable room as long as it has a bed, a table, and a chair, and then similar to the dining area, adding more decorations in the room increases the reputation gain from visitors who opt to rent. The construction feature is a massive unlock because this basically allows you to create the tavern of your dreams with unique layouts, style, and decoration. Unfortunately, resources are hard to come by, which limits the speed at which you can expand, but nevertheless, the construction feature made me very excited because being able to control where I can build rooms or how I can expand allows me to stretch my creative muscles and basically decide what kind of tavern I want to build. At this point in the game, I was feeling pretty excited for what's to come. I was thinking of adding more rooms like a proper living room, making a VIP-only area, and even decorating the area outside of the tavern and doing projects such as building my own vineyard. With the gold becoming less and less of an issue, my main focus started to shift to the construction feature as we moved on to the end game. As Traveler's Rest is still in development, the end game doesn't have a lot for us to do aside from what I already mentioned. In the current build, I see a lot of other players focusing on expanding as they approach this part of the game, and similar to them, that's also what I did. As you gain an abundance of gold, I started building things like the chicken coop and working on making the tavern larger. After all, the larger the tavern, the more people you can serve, and the faster you can expand. Since wood in this game is limited and it takes a while for a sapling to grow, I found myself buying a lot of the building materials that I needed, which is why gold is very important. As of now, this is pretty much the only thing to do in the end game. Expand your tavern and make the whole place pretty, so that's when I took a break from the game. For an early access title, I've spent around 20 hours going through its content, but I'm far from maxing everything out. There's a lot of players who put 50 hours, even 100 hours into this game even in its current form, but what has me really excited aside from what I've seen during my playtime is what's upcoming in the game's development roadmap. Right now, all we really have is the main tavern management feature, but in the future, not only are we going to be getting more recipes, but we are getting new features altogether. The ones that have me most excited are the season system, so we'll be going through spring, summer, fall, and winter, the new staff system, which will add the balancer to take care of rowdy customers allowing for a fully automated tavern, the new areas, both the mine and the city, and all the NPCs and content that come with it. And then there's a bunch of smaller features like fishing, insect collection, social relationships like in Stardew Valley, and a full-on magic and combat system. Lastly, there's the main story, which will most likely get added when the game fully releases. Overall, my experience with Traveler's Rest has been wonderful. It's definitely still in early access, there's a lot of things missing, and there's a couple of bugs that I noticed as I played through the game, but fortunately nothing game-breaking. The Tavern management is absolutely solid. They nailed the fun and addictive gameplay loop which will tie every upcoming content around it, which makes me feel very optimistic about the game's future. As they add more features into the game, Traveler's Rest will only get better. So, is Traveler's Rest worth it? Yes, but only if you're in it for the tavern management simulation. If you're expecting building relationships with NPCs and exploration, it's not quite there yet, but eventually it will be, and I'll be there to experience the game once more. If you want more videos like this, check this one out right here. Hit that like and subscribe button if you want to see more, and also thank you to our Patreon supporters for making this channel possible. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.